Underwater, rivers and waterfalls welcome to ASMR Dreams. Donate. We are traveling to one of the most mysterious places on Earth, a place where even scientists still do not know what lies beyond the next turn. Make yourself comfortable. Turn off the lights and simply allow yourself to drift into the most pleasant dreams carried by the soft whisper of the ocean. And if, in the morning, you feel the desire to come back and continue watching to the very end, then it means everything worked exactly as it should. In that case, leave a like, share in the comments what stayed with you the most, on subscribe entire oceans of stories. And now, gently close your eyes. We begin our descent. Underwater, rivers and waterfalls beneath the ocean. The ocean appears vast, calm, and uniform. But this is only an illusion. In reality, it is made of thousands of invisible layers. And sometimes, these layers begin to live a life of their own. One of the most striking examples is a river flowing along the bottom of the Black Sea. Yes, a real river hidden beneath the waves. It is about 1 kilometer wide, up to 60 meters deep in some places. And it flows at a speed of 6 to 8 kilometers per hour, faster than many rivers on land. It has a channel, high banks formed from dense silt, rapids, and even its own small waterfalls, 10 to 15 meters high, where heavy water spills over ledges, lifting clouds of dark sediment into the surrounding silence. In 2010, a British autonomous robot traveled directly along this underwater river and recorded everything on video. If you were there, inside a bathyscaphe, muddy currents would rush past the portholes. Like spring, floodwaters of a great river above the surface. Where did it come from? Through the Bosphorus Strait, very salty and heavy water from the Mediterranean Sea constantly enters the Black Sea. This water sinks downward and spreads along the seabed, remaining unmixed with the upper layers for years, sometimes for centuries. Scientists have calculated that this underwater river carries 350 times more water than the Thames, and it has existed for several thousand years. But this is only a warm-up. In the Strait of Gibraltar, something truly astonishing happens. Here lies the highest permanent waterfall on the planet, only it exists underwater. Dense Mediterranean water plunges into the Atlantic Ocean with a drop of nearly 1 kilometer, higher than Angel Falls, in narrow passages. The flow reaches speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. Giant internal waves rise here, some reaching 100 meters in height. At times, these waves break through to the surface, creating sudden walls of water in the middle of an otherwise calm sea. Even more powerful is the cascade in the Denmark Strait, between Greenland and Iceland. Here, 5 million cubic meters of cold water every second rush downward with a vertical drop of 3,500 meters. Beside it, the Amazon River looks like a gentle stream. And in the tropics, beneath the ground and beneath the water, stretch the cenotes of the Yucatan Peninsula, in some of Thames floodwater, and between them hangs a cloudy, shimmering layer called a halocline. You dive through it and enter another world, stalactites, ancient Mayan bones, crocodiles living in complete darkness, hunting by the sound of a heartbeat rather than sight. The ocean does not simply store water. It separates it, forces it to flow, to fall, to hide entire underground worlds within itself. And this is only the first layer. Now imagine that sometimes the entire surface of the ocean suddenly transforms into glowing, milky light, stretching for hundreds, even thousands of kilometers, but that belongs to the next chapter. Milky seas, when the ocean shines brighter than a full moon night, absolute calm, no wind, no waves, not a single star in the sky, and then the horizon disappears. The sky and the water merge into one continuous white veil, glowing so brightly that on the deck of a ship you could read a book without a lantern. The shed of the nas butin light. The wake behind the ship burns, like molten metal slowly cooling in silence. Sailors who witnessed this wrote in their logbooks, "We were sailing across a snowy field. The ocean turned into milk. The light came from below, and it was more frightening than any darkness." This phenomenon is called a Milky Sea. It appears most often in the northwestern Indian Ocean and near the Sunda Strait. Its size can reach 50 to 60,000 square kilometers, larger than many European countries. From space, it looks like a gigantic white stain spread across a black, sleeping ocean. The creators of this impossible light are bacteria called Vibrio Harvae. Normally, they shimmer in tiny blue sparks like ordinary bioluminescent plankton. But when their numbers grow to trillions per liter of water, and they synchronize their flashes, the light becomes continuous, soft, steady, and milk-white. It becomes warm, slightly sweet, with a faint trace of decay, the scent of life multiplied beyond measure. One of the best documented cases occurred in 1995. Aboard the British merchant ship Lima, the captain wrote in the log, "At 2:14, the ocean suddenly ignited with white light. Everything around became brighter than under a full moon. It lasted almost for hours, then slowly faded, earlier still in the 1980s. An American submarine surfaced in the middle of a Milky Sea. The crew panicked, believing they were witnessing an underwater nuclear explosion. Today, satellites detect Milky Seas almost every summer, but only a handful of people ever see them from a ship's deck. You must be in exactly the right place, on exactly the right night, when the ocean decides to switch on its own silent spotlight. This is not the end of the world, not a sign from above. It is simply billions of tiny living beings who, for one night, decided to sing together so loudly, so perfectly in unison, that they outshone the stars. And now, let us descend to where light has never been and never will be, to a place where temperatures reach 400 degrees, where pressure would crush a tank, and where life blooms more fiercely than in a tropical rainforest. Black smokers, gardens where sunlight is not needed. At depths of 2 to 3 kilometers, absolute darkness reigns. Not a single photon has reached this place for millions of years. The surrounding water is cold, about 2 degrees Celsius. The pressure is 300 times higher than at the surface, and from cracks in the Earth's crust, water heated to 400 degrees bursts outward. According to every textbook, this should be a dead zone. And yet, instead of emptiness, there is a living metropolis. They were first seen in 1977 near the Galapagos Islands. The bathyscaphe Alvin switched on its lights, and the crew simply lost the power of speech. On the seafloor stood black towers, as tall as multi-story buildings. From them poured thick, dark clouds, like smoke from chimneys in a silent city. And all around, life. Toi mettez-l'on redworms. White crabs the size of dinner plates. Fields of mollusks, some of them 1,000 years old. These are hydrothermal vents. The black smokers, superheated water saturated with hydrogen sulfide and metals, shoots up from deep inside the earth. The moment it touches the cold ocean water, minerals crystallize instantly, building the walls of the chimneys at speeds of up to 30 centimeters per day, faster than corals grow under sunlight. Life here works without the sun. Everything is based on chemosynthesis, butyr sulfide, and turn it into energy, just as plants turn light into food. Giant tubeworms, Riftia, reaching 2.5 meters in length, do not even have mouths or stomachs. Inside their bodies is a special organ, packed with these bacteria. The worms give them shelter and sulfur. The bacteria feed their hosts. A perfect, silent alliance. Nearby crawl yeti crabs, white, furry, blind creatures, with claws covered in bacterial gardens. They carefully cultivate for food. Remicorous shrimp have eyes not on their heads, but on their backs. They see infrared light emanating from the scorching vents. Small octopuses and heat-resistant fish hover calmly just centimeters from the jets, where the temperature is barely tolerable, even though nearby water boils with invisible fury. There are also white smokers. One of the most famous is the Lost City Field. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there, towers of calcium carbonate rise, as high as a 60-story building. They are 120,000 years old. The water is about 90 degrees, softly glowing with a pale blue hue. Scientists believe that this is what the cradle of life on Earth may have looked like 4 billion years ago. And in the 2020s, almost identical hydrothermal fields were discovered beneath the ice of Saturn's moon Enceladus, and possibly beneath the ice of Europa, a moon of Jupiter, which means that life that does not need sunlight may be the rule in the universe, not the exception. Black smokers proved something profound. For life, energy and water are enough. Light is only one option, and far from the most reliable one. And no, let us rise a little higher and see which continents and cities the ocean has swallowed whole and still refuses to give back. Sunken continents and cities. Sunken continents and cities older than the pyramids. The ocean does not just sink ships. It swallows entire worlds. One of the greatest surprises of the 21st century is this quiet truth. Earth has an 8th continent, and almost all of it lies beneath the water. Its name is Zealandia. Its area is about 5 million square kilometers, only slightly smaller than Australia. Above the surface, only fragments remain: New Zealand, New Caledonia, and a scattering of small islands. Everything else disappeared 60 to 80 million years ago. When the continent's unusually thin crust slowly collapsed under its own weight and sank into the depths. Down there are mountain ranges rising up to 4,000 meters, vast plains, volcanoes, and even river systems, only now they flow in darkness. 1 or 2 kilometers below the waves. Scientists officially recognized Zealandia as a continent in 2017, and even today, less than 1% of its surface has been mapped in high resolution. If the ocean were to vanish for just one moment, a completely new part of the planet would quietly emerge before our eyes. But not all losses are ancient. Near the coast of Japan, at depths of just 20 to 40 meters, lies the mysterious Yonaguni structure, step terraces. Perfectly straight edges, columns, a flat road 5 meters wide, and a central stepped formation often called a pyramid. It was discovered in 1986 by ordinary divers. Geologists say it is natural sandstone fractured into neat blocks by tectonic forces. But divers point to something harder to explain: precise 90-degree angles, round holes, and even a rock formation that resembles a human face. Its age is estimated at 10 to 12,000 years. Exactly the time when sea levels were about 120 meters lower and this place was dry land. Similar discoveries are scattered across the globe. In the Gulf of Cambay, near India, Sonaska Nintathoundas 5 kilometer straight streets, foundations, and drainage systems. Carbon dating suggested an age of 9,500 to 11,000 years. Near Alexandria, each column has 5 granite blocks along the seafloor. Remnants of temples that once stood on land before earthquakes and rising waters claimed them. In the Mimini Road, wharf flat, hexagonal stony or harbor. All of these sites sit at nearly the same depth. The exact level where the global ocean rose after the ice sheets melted 12 to 15,000 years ago. Bakhten. Vast coastal plains disappeared. Plains where millions of people may have lived. Where the first ports, temples, and perhaps even early capitals once stood. Today, 95% of the ocean floor has never been mapped in high resolution. We walk on the roof of a drowned world without knowing which palaces, plazas, and forgotten faces are looking up at us from beneath layers of silt and coral. And some of these sunken places are not silent. Even now, they produce sounds, loud, unexplained signals that can be heard from thousands of kilometers away. But that is a story for the next chapter. Mysterious sounds of the ocean sounds science still has no clear answers, for the ocean is never truly silent. We simply do not always know how to listen. In 1997, the American NOAA network of hydrophones, a system left behind from the Cold War, recorded a sound so powerful that it was detected simultaneously by 3 sensors separated by nearly 5,000 kilometers. It was deep, Chizing, a growing roar that lasted for more than a full minute, and then ended abruptly, as if something enormous had suddenly fallen silent. It was louder than any known animal, louder than underwater volcanoes, louder even than the call of the blue whale. The sound was given a name, bloop. Almost immediately, the internet filled with legends about a colossal unknown creature lurking in the depths. In 2012, NOAA quietly stated that the most likely explanation was the cracking and fracturing of a massive Antarctic iceberg. And yet, even scientists admit, the recording still sounds more unsettling than most horror films. But bloop is not alone. There are sounds that still have no explanation at all. Julia, a long, mournful moan, lasting nearly a minute, like the cry of a gigantic, wounded animal. Recorded in 1999, somewhere near Antarctica. Upsweep, a high, whistling tone that slowly changes pitch. Appearing season after season since 1991. Steady and rhythmic, as if the ocean itself. Ibreating, slow down, a sound lasting 7 minutes, gradually descending in pitch, as though something immense is releasing its final breath. Train, a 5-minute rumble, uncannily similar to a freight train passing beneath the sea. During the 1970s and 1980s, Soviet submariners in the Barents and Norwegian seas repeatedly reported a strange croaking sound. It followed the submarines' changed frequency and sometimes seemed to respond to the sound of the propellers. In classified logs, these noises were called quackers. Officially, they were attributed to secret American devices. Unofficially, Menicansvilla, curious, aware. In recent years, new voices have joined the chorus. Between 2022 and 2024, reports of skyquakes appeared. Low, thunderous booms, sometimes heard even on shore, as if the sky itself were cracking open. And then there is the hum, a persistent vibration, around 30 to 40 hertz, recorded across the world. Some people don't just hear it. They feel it deep in their chest, like a distant engine that never turns off. All of these recordings are real. None of their sources have been definitively identified. We only know this. The ocean speaks in its own language. And so far, we have learned only a few scattered words, and even those we are not certain we have translated correctly. In the next chapter, we will meet those who may be creating these sounds. Riches sud-ouest en familiar. They look as if they were imagined by an artist painting from the deepest, darkest dreams. Abyssal monsters, creatures of the deep, we have already met face to face in total darkness, where pressure is 1,000 times greater than ours and sunlight has never reached. Evolution did not hold back. Here, nature allowed itself to become truly strange. The goblin shark, pink, almost as if turned inside out. Its long, blade-like snout can sense the faintest bioelectric signals from prey hundreds of meters away. Its jaws shoot forward like something from a nightmare and snap back instantly. When it was first filmed alive in the early 2000s, the submersible camera operator later admitted he couldn't eat fish for an entire week. The anglerfish serratioid. The female is about the size of a football, with a mouth that reaches halfway down her body and a glowing lure on her head, a living fishing rod ending in light. The males are tiny, no bigger than a finger. They find the female, bite into her flesh, and fuse with her forever. Their organs slowly disappear, only the reproductive tissue remains. Love taken to the point of complete dissolution. The vampire, Squid Vampiroteuthis infernalis, literally the vampire from hell. A black cloak of skin, webbing stretched between its arms, glowing red or blue eyes, and hundreds of tiny light organs scattered across its body. It moves by gently pulsing its fins, as if drifting through outer space rather than swimming through water. The giant squid and the colossal squid. Females reach 14 to 18 meters in length. Their eyes are the size of dinner plates, the largest in the animal kingdom. Their suckers are lined with rotating, serrated hooks. Sperm whales dive more than a kilometer to hunt them and return covered in scars from head to tail. Sometimes they do not return at all. Dragonfish, hatchetfish, pelican eels, hagfish, every year. The list grows longer. In 2023, a new anglerfish with a blinding spotlight instead of a simple lure. In 2024, a squid with glowing hook-like lamps along its arms. In 2025, within just the first half of the year, 5 new species already, each one looking as if it escaped from a bad dream. They are not hiding from us. They are simply living in a world we visit for only a few minutes, sealed inside a steel capsule, with our lights turned up to maximum. And when those lights go dark, there is only silence and the quiet feeling that something very large is slowly passing by. Now, let us meet a creature that lives among us, yet may possess the most alien mind on the entire planet. Triart, 8 armes, and an intelligence sud-ouest inusual, that scientists sometimes call them aliens of Earth. Octopuses, an alien mind. Octopuses, an alien intelligence with 3 hearts. They appeared on Earth long before the dinosaurs, survived every mass extinction, and over 300 million years became, perhaps, the most alien form of intelligence on this planet. An octopus has 3 hearts to pump blood through the gills. The third sends it through the rest of the body. When an octopus swims, that third heart actually stops. That is why octopuses prefer to crawl, slowly and thoughtfully, touching the world with their arms. Their blood is blue, based on copper, not iron. Cold, ancient chemistry, perfect for the depths. Inside their body are about 500 million neurons. And here is the strange part. Almost 2/3 of them are not in the brain, but in the arms. Each arm can think. Each arm can taste. Each arm can feel, decide, explore, and even solve small problems on its own, while the central brain mostly coordinates the whole. They change color and skin texture faster than any chameleon. In less than 1/3 of a second, they can become stone, coral, sand, or even imitate the movement of a venomous snake. Their skin can see light and sense polarization even when their eyes are closed. Light touches them, and the body understands. In aquariums, octopuses regularly open jars, unscrew lids, disassemble locks, and escape through pipes only 3 to 4 centimeters wide. They have no bones at all, only one hard beak. If the beak fits. The most famous escape artist, Inky, from a New Zealand aquarium in 2016, climbed out of his tank at night, crawled more than 20 meters across the floor, and calmly disappeared into a drain pipe leading to the ocean. Octopuses recognize individual humans. They solve mazes. They use tulfokirch portable house. They play, they tease. They get bored. And they can clearly become offended if they are ignored. In experiments, they distinguish shapes and colors better than many mammals, and remember solutions to tasks. Fourier. The strangest detail lies in their DNA. Octopuses have about 33,000 protein-coding genes. Humans have around 20,000. A huge portion of these genes is devoted to the nervous system and the ability to radically change the body. In 2015, a scientific paper appeared where molecular biologists, half-jokingly but not entirely, suggested that the ancestors of octopuses might have arrived on Earth inside cryopreserved eggs carried by comets. The panspermia hypothesis. Serious scientists rolled their eyes, but the fact remains, genetically so distant from all other animals, that they truly look like visitors. They also live very short lives, from 1 to 5 years. Yet, in that brief time, they go from a microscopic larva to a brilliant predator, capable of outsmarting almost anyone. After laying eggs, the female stops eating and dies while guarding her offspring. Asif Shokno. Her mission is complete. We still do not understand how they think. Otedrim. Yes, they change color in their sleep, or why they are so intelligent. We know only one thing for certain. An alien mind already lives in the ocean, looking at us with 8 watchful eyes, and perhaps understanding far more about us than we do about it. The immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis, the jellyfish that refused to die. It is smaller than a fingernail, almost completely transparent, more harmless looking than a soap bubble. And yet, it is the only animal known to science that can biologically live forever. Turritopsis dorni, official nickname, the immortal jellyfish. A normal jellyfish follows a simple path. Larva polypadish reproduction deat. Turritopsis does something no one else does. After becoming an adult and reproducing under stress, hunger, injury, or sometimes for no obvious reason at all, it sinks to the bottom, contracts into a tiny ball, and initiates a process called transdifferentiation. All of its specialized cells, tentacles, stomach, bell, begin transforming back into the polyp stage, the very beginning of its life. After 3 to 10 days, a new polyp grows from that sphere. Then a young jellyfish emerges. Genetically, it is the exact same individual. This cycle can repeat again and again in laboratory conditions. The same jellyfish has been forced to rebirth more than 12 times in a row. Theoretically, it will never die of old age. In practice, it is usually eaten by predators or killed by temperature changes. But aging itself does not threaten it. Today, Torritopsis dorni lives in all the world's oceans. It travels inside ship ballast tanks, and over the last decades has colonized seas where it never existed before. Biologists already call it a biological invader, the first species to spread globally thanks to humans. The most astonishing part is this: we still do not understand the mechanism. Cells what they were and become stem cells again. If we ever unlock this trick, we may one day apply it to human tissues. For no, this tiny creature quietly reminds every other inhabitant of the ocean: death, as we know it, is not a mandatory part of the program. In the depth, there is already someone who simply pressed reset and continued living. And no, we travel to a place where even a reset will not help, to the icy wall of Antarctica, from which, for millions of years, something very real has been flowing, something that looks disturbingly like blood. The blood falls. The blood falls, flowing for 2 million years. In the dry valleys of Antarctica, the driest and coldest place on the planet, stands the Taylor Glacier, white like bone, still, at first glance, completely lifeless, and yet, from its shell, as tall as a 30-story building, a thick dark red stream slowly pours out. It creeps down the ice, freezes into crimson icicles, and stains the snow below into a blood-colored patch the size of several football fields. When people first saw this in 1911, Australian geologist Griffith Taylor believed that an entire herd of seals had died beneath the ice, or that something like a massacre had occurred. The truth turned out to be far stranger. The waterfall has been flowing continuously for at least 1 million years. Beneath the glacier lies a hidden underground lake, hypersaline, 10 times saltier than the ocean, and so rich in iron that it resembles liquid rust. This lake was formed when Antarctica was still green and warm. Then the continent froze. The glacier sealed the exit, and the water became trapped. Without light, oui to terre, without contact with the surface world, through a narrow crack, under enormous pressure, the brine still forces its way out. The moment it touches oxygen, the iron oxidizes instantly, and the water turns that deep, unsettling blood-red color. But the color is not the most incredible part. Inside this lake, life exists. Complete darkness, -10 degrees Celsius, pressure from hundreds of meters of ice, no oxygen at all. And yet, an entire ecosystem lives there. 17 species of microorganisms that breathe iron and sulfur ions, just like the bacteria near black smokers on the ocean floor. Some of them even build tiny iron nanofibers inside their cells, primitive biological batteries to store and transfer energy. Between 2014 and 2017, scientists drilled through the ice and brought samples to the surface. The microbes were alive. They began to multiply actively inside laboratory tubes. They had not seen sunlight for 2 million years, and still they were perfectly fine. Those who dared to taste a drop of the water, yes, there were such people say it, feels like licking an old rusty nail, icy cold and incredibly salty. The blood flows slowly, only a few liters per minute, but it flows always. During the polar night, at -50 degrees, without pause, like a living reminder that even in the most dead place on earth, someone is still breathing, waiting on something beautifully and terrifyingly, reminds us of its presence with a scarlet stream. 28,800 rubber ducks, 28,800. Rubber ducks that became the best oceanographers on Earth January 10th, 1992. The container ship Ever Laurel was sailing from Hong Kong to the United States when it was caught in a violent storm in the northern Pacific Ocean. 140-foot container was torn from the deck and thrown overboard. Inside were 28,800 plastic bath toys, blue turtles, green frogs, red beavers, and yellow rubber ducks with the label "The First Years." The container broke apart, and the toys scattered across the waves. At first, no one noticed. And then began one of the most extraordinary journeys of the 20th century. After 10 months, the first ducks washed ashore in Alaska. After a year, in Hawaii. After 3 years, they were photographed in Indonesia and Australia. After 5 years, they reached Chile and Japan. And after 15 years, in 2007, faded, sun-bleached, covered with barnacles, the ducks began appearing on the western coasts of Britain and Ireland. Oceanogacotis epis maya reports turned an accidental disaster into the largest experiment on ocean currents ever conducted. He collected tens of thousands of reports from people around the world and built the most accurate map of surface ocean circulation of its time. It turned out that rubber ducks are perfect drifters. They float half above water, never sink, and do not decompose. Tanktotem said, how the North Pacific gyre works, where the Great Garbage Patch accumulates, and how many years it takes for an ordinary object to travel around the globe. One duck, found in 2021 on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, had traveled almost 50,000 kilometers. Today, these 30-year-old toys are rare collectibles. A single faded duck with its original serial number can sell for up to $1,000, but their greatest value is not monetary. They showed us that the ocean is one enormous, slowly rotating carousel. What is thrown into the water near America may return years later to Europe, to Antarctica, or disappear forever into the quiet center of a gyre. So if one day you find an old yellow rubber duck on a beach, remember, it has seen more countries than most people will see in a lifetime. And it knows more about the ocean than all textbooks combined. And now, let us hold our breath for a moment and look at what happens where the ocean itself can no longer breathe. Dead zones. When the ocean stops breathing summer, warm coastal water. And then, suddenly, fish begin to surface, belly up, by the thousands. Shrimp and crabs crawl out of the sea in dense carpets, drag themselves onto the shore, and suffocate on the sand. Jellyfish swell to the size of umbrellas, and become the only creatures that feel perfectly fine. The water turns a dull grey-green and smells like rotten eggs. This is not a disaster movie. This is a dead zone. And there are already more than 700 of them across the planet. The largest one today forms every summer in the Gulf of Mexico. Its area reaches 20 to 25,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of all of Latvia. The second largest lies in the Baltic Sea, the third off the coast of Oregon, the fourth in the northern Arabian Sea. The overall trend is clear. Since 1950, the number of dead zones has increased tenfold. How does this happen? Too much nitrogen and phosphorus from agricultural fields, from livestock farms, from untreated wastewater. They flow into the sea gives. Algae explode into uncontrolled growth gives, then die, mass and sink to the bottom gives. Bacteria begin to consume them and suck every last molecule of oxygen from the lower layers of water. What remains is an oxygen zero. Below 20 to 30 meters, life simply does not exist. In the worst cases, oxygen disappears almost entirely and only hydrogen sulfide remains. The water turns black, thick, and foul. Like the deep layers of the Black Sea, fishermen return with empty nets and say quietly, "The sea died right before our eyes." A grim record was set in 2018. The dead zone in the Gulf of Oman expanded to the size of France. Everything alive either fled or perished. Local residents said even birds stopped flying over the water. There was nothing left to feed on. Scientists warn, if nothing changes, by the end of this century dead zones could merge into a continuous belt around the equator. A third of the world's fish catch is already at risk. And yet, even in this darkness, life clings on. Giant bacterial mats appear, glowing softly in the dark. Unexplained. Breathing through gills as large as their own bodies. They feed on pure hydrogen sulfide and remind us of something unsettling. Life knows how to survive, even where we have already killed it. Dead zones are not a mystery of the ocean. They are our signature on it. And that signature is becoming brighter every year. Now let's step away from the darkness and look at something scientists discovered almost yesterday: soft, purple spheres that still have no name and no explanation. Pure plus spheres. Purple spheres, a mystery the ocean handed to us right now. August 2023. The submersible Nautilus descends to a depth of 1,330 meters. Off the coast of California, in the beam of the floodlights, an object appears, perfectly spherical, about the size of a basketball, bright purple in color, soft, slightly translucent. The robotic arm carefully draws it into a sample container, and the sphere simply allows it. It doesn't resist. It doesn't burst. On board, the biologists shrug. This is definitely alive. But we have never seen anything like it. Over the next 2 years, dozens more identical purple spheres are discovered near Mexico, near Guadeloupe, near Australia, near Chile. Alzesam, 8 to 12 centimeters in diameter. A thin Yumbelishrel, a dark core inside, sometimes alone, sometimes scattered across the seafloor, as if someone spilled giant fish eggs into the abyss. At first they thought squid eggs, then a new species of jellyfish, then a colony of salps or siphonophores. None of it fit. Genetic analysis revealed. Inside is a single enormous cell containing a tiny embryo, but the DNA does not match any known species. It is closest to unicellular organisms, yet thousands of times larger. In February 2024, one sphere in a Scripps laboratory suddenly opened. A tiny pink, spider-like creature with long, delicate limbs swam out and died almost immediately. The event could not be repeated. The remaining spheres simply lie still. En duet, some have not changed by even a millimeter for 3 years. In September 2025, the newest specimen was raised off the coast of Chile. It is still alive. It sits in a pressure-controlled aquarium, watching humans through dozens of microscopic eye-like structures embedded in it. A live stream on YouTube runs around the clock. Millions are watching. Scientists have given it a temporary name, purple orb, and they say honestly, we don't know what this is at all. Hypotheses range from a new type of marine unicellular life, a protective life stage of an unknown deep-sea animal, or an organism that evolved separately for tens of millions of years and only now decided to make contact, eosin, which we believe to be understood, at least in broad strokes, suddenly pulls an entirely new form of life, mit pocket, and places it on the table, as if saying, figure it out, and it does this right now. While you are listening to this story, in the next chapter, we will dive into true vertical abysses in the middle of the ocean, places where the seafloor simply disappears and drops straight down for hundreds of meters, sheer and endless. Blue holes, vertical portals into a prehistoric ocean from an airplane. They look like perfect circular voids in a turquoise sea. Dark blue, almost black pupils, surrounded by lighter lagoons. The most famous of them all, the Great Blue Hole in Belize, 314 meters in diameter, 125 meters deep. From space, it resembles an eye gazing from the ocean straight into the sky. But the true terror and the true beauty begin only when you dive inside. The first 20 to 30 meters, just dark, quiet water. Then, suddenly, the walls retreat, and you fall into emptiness. Sheer limestone cliffs rise around you, adorned with stalactites and stalagmites as tall as a human. They grew when this place was a dry cave, 15 to 20,000 years ago, during the last ice age. Then the ocean rose and swallowed everything. At 40 to 60 meters, the light turns ghostly, bluish-green. On the walls hang enormous sponges and black corals, some thousands of years old. Through side tunnels, huge groupers sometimes peer out, fish the size of a human, living here for decades, completely unafraid of bubbles. At 80 to 100 meters, darkness is nearly complete. This is where horizontal passages begin, stretching into the unknown for hundreds of meters. In some, bones of humans and animals still remain, those who fell here, when the cave was still dry. But there are holes even more terrifying. Ces Dragonholes, in the South China Sea Paracel Islands. Official depth 301 meters. But the true bottom has never been reached. In 2016, a joint expedition descended 220 meters and discovered walls continuing into absolute darkness. Temperature dropped to +4 degrees Celsius, pressure nearly 30 atmospheres, and divers began to feel nitrogen narcosis. They went no further. Din's Point, in the Red Sea, sheer drop of over 200 meters. On the bottom lie remains of sunken ships and even airplanes, as if they were sucked inside. In 2024, a 3,500-year-old ancient Egyptian anchor was discovered there. Blue holes are deadly. Nitrogen narcosis begins already at 40 meters. Orientation is lost instantly. Cave ceilings are dotted with skeletons of divers who thought just a little further. Even today, any serious expedition inside is considered extreme. These are not just holes. They are time capsules, preserving the ocean as it existed before us, cold, dark, and completely indifferent to anyone daring to descend to deep. The loneliest whale on the planet, he has been singing for 37 years. Every year, the same route. From California to the Aleutians and back, thousands of kilometers in utter solitude. A loud, pure, haunting call at a frequency of 52 Hz. For comparison, blue whales sing at 15 to 25 Hz, fin whales around 20 Hz. His voice is almost an octave higher, a tenor among a choir of basses. Because of this frequency, no other whale can hear him. Neither females, nor males, nor even calves. Écale. And the only reply is the echo from the seafloor and the distant hum of ship propellers. First recorded in 1989 by U.S. military hydrophones. Since then, the recording has been updated every season. The same timbre, the same 5 to 7 second phrases, only now the voice is slightly lower, noticeably sadder. Scientists simply call him 52. Who is he? A hybrid of blue and fin whales. A whale with a damaged vocal apparatus, or perhaps born deaf. In any case, he is fully grown, healthy, and judging by his trajectories, he is still searching for anyone who will answer. In 2004, the recording leaked online. Sustain. It has become the most famous, sorrowful story of the ocean. People wrote hymn songs, from Lou Reed to entire orchestras, filmed documentaries, even created petitions. Find 52. In the 2010s, a few private yachts, and even a small submarine, tried to follow him. No one ever saw him. He always slips beyond the horizon. The last clear recording was in April 2025 off the coast of Oregon. Same voice, the Samson. Sometimes it seems he is no longer seeking a mate. He simply sings because he cannot do otherwise. Like a person unable to stop. If you play the recording at night in headphones, it is unsettling. In the infinite ocean, there is a being that has been crying, "I am here." since 1989. And in all that time, no one has ever shouted back. In the next chapter, we will travel even further, beyond Earth itself, into the sub-ice oceans of Jupiter and Saturn's moons, where, it seems, someone is already singing, on their own secret frequency. Sub-ice oceans of Europa and Enceladus. Sub-ice oceans of Europa and Enceladus. Life has probably already appeared where Juavetis said hello yet. Imagine an ocean in total darkness, beneath an ice shell 10 to 30 kilometers thick. No sunlight, no Ave, only heat from the planet's interior, salty water, and a silence undisturbed for billions of years. Such an ocean exists right in our neighborhood, 600 to 800 million kilometers from Earth. Europa, a moon of Jupiter, beneath an ice shell 15 to 25 kilometers thick, lies a global ocean up to 100 kilometers deep, twice the volume of all Earth's oceans combined. The water is salty with magnesium, sodium, and possibly sulfates. Heat comes from tidal flexing. Jupiter literally needs the moon, with its gravity like a ball in a fist. In 2016, Hubble photographed water geysers over Europa's south pole, reaching 200 kilometers high. In 2024, the JUICE probe, and in 2025, Europa Clipper confirmed. The geysers erupt regularly, spitting water directly from the sub-ice ocean into space, where through spectrometers to this water's oxygen, carbon dioxide, and further away, around Saturn, lies Enceladus. Its ice shell is only 5 to 10 kilometers thick. The ocean beneath is neutral, almost like Earth's, and full of hydrothermal vents. In 2015, the Cassini probe flew through Enceladus geysers and found molecular hydrogen, methane, silicon, carbon dioxide, and complex organic molecules. This is an exact chemical autograph of Earth's black smokers, where life thrives. In 2025, new Cassini data, reanalyzed using AI, showed phosphorus in Enceladus jets, the last missing element for Earth-like life. Now, the set is complete. Energy, water, organics, and all essential elements. Scientists no longer say there might be life. They say there are almost certainly microbial ecosystems there, and possibly something as the next step drilling proteinobots. Planned for 2030 to 2034. If all goes as planned, by 2040 we may get the first photographs of living beings from another ocean of the solar system. Earth is no longer the only place with a vast, warm ocean. It exists right next door, under the ice, and it seems to have been thriving quietly for a long time. We are only now knocking on the door. Plastic deeper than us, the Mariana Trench and humanity's footprint. We have not yet set foot on the very bottom of Earth, and our trash has already been there, waiting. May 1998, the Japanese robot Kaiko descended 10,980 meters into the Challenger Deep, the planet's deepest point. Its lights illuminated gray silt, and a common white plastic bag lying neatly among the sediments, as if placed there yesterday. Since then, every expedition to the abyss brings the same sight. Candy wrappers bottles, fishing nets, aluminum cans, even rubber slippers and children's toys. In 2019, Victor Vesovo in the submersible limiting factor found at 10,928 meters a plastic bag with thank you, a Snickers wrapper, and a clothing tag dated 1987 in 2022. He raised a bottle of Evian from 1994, lying next to an unknown amphipod that slowly sniffed it. Today, microplastic concentration in Mariana Trench sediments is higher than in the famous Great Pacific Garbage Patch. 89% of all particles below 6,000 meters are plastic. In the stomachs of amphipods, small shrimp living at 10 kilometers, microplastic is found 100% of the time. They eat what we throw away and cannot stop. Trash sinks slowly. Years on the surface gives decades, in the water column gives centuries on the bottom. But it always arrives. Even where the pressure is 1,100 atmospheres, temperature +2 degrees Celsius, and light has never reached. The bitterest part, we have studied less than 0.01% of the species living below 6,000 meters, and we have already poisoned nearly all of them. In 2024, a new species of snailfish was found on the trench floor. Beautiful, transparent, with huge eyes, its liver contained more microplastic than its own tissue. We still descend into the abyss to uncover wonders. Instead, we are met by our own trash, looking up from below, silently saying, "You are everywhere." Et venir. In the next chapter, we will explore another strange discovery that makes scientists argue hoarsely. Huge underwater structures that look too perfect to be natural. Underwater megaliths. Underwater megaliths, nature, or forgotten cities. We are used to thinking that all ancient civilizations left traces on land. But what if the oldest ones simply went underwater, waiting for us to learn how to look down? Yonaguni, 1986. Diver Kihachiro Aratake was searching for a dive site near a Japanese island and stumbled upon the impossible, a massive stepped pyramid, 180 meters on each side, with even terraces 5 to 7 meters wide. Perfect 90-degree angles, columns, a road, and even a stone turtle, all at a depth of 25 to 30 meters. Age, at least 10 to 12,000 years, when this area was dry land. The debate continues. Most geologists say it's natural sandstone, cracking into regular blocks under tectonic forces. But divers and some archaeologists point to photos. Perfectly round holes, steps with sharp edges, a face carved into rock, and a main square with a right angle, rarely formed by nature. Yonaguni is not alone. Cambay Bay, India, 2001. Indian naval sonar finds a city 5 kilometers beneath the silt. Straight streets at 90 degrees. Building foundations, drainage channels. Carbon dating of artifacts, 9,500 to 11,000 years old, older than all known civilizations. Domly, 2011 Swedish with perfect circle 6 meter across on the Baltic Sea floor, with a straight staircase and charred black marks. Official explanation, unusual glacial boulder. Unofficially, instruments fail within 200 meters, phones shut down, and divers feel unexplained dread. Bahamas Bimini-Road. Hexagonal slabs stretching into the ocean, like an ancient roadway. Cuba, 2001. Sonar shows pyramids and circular structures beneath 700 meters of water. All these sites lie exactly at the level where the ocean settled after glaciers melted 12 to 18,000 years ago. Back then, vast coastal plains disappeared, possibly home to millions of people. In 2024, a new structure was discovered near the Canary Islands. A flat platform 50 meters, with columns and an altar. In 2025, another mothered Witera. We still don't know for sure. Nature is capable of amazing shapes, but straight angles, symmetry, and scale make us wonder. Could it be that someone built here long before us, while we were still living in caves? The ocean holds the answers. We've only just begun asking the right questions. Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle. The facts behind the mystery. 3 points on the map: Miami, Bermuda, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. 1.5 million square kilometers of ocean, where legend says ships and planes vanish without a trace, without a last word. Books, movies, and TV shows have fed us stories for decades about portals, magnetic traps, Atlanteans, and giant squids. Now let's simply see what science says in 2025, without a single extra detail. First, the statistics. According to Lloyd's of London and the World Meteorological Organization, the Bermuda Triangle doesn't even rank among the 10 most dangerous areas of the world ocean in terms of accidents per vessel traffic. More ships sink at Cape Horn, Drake Passage, the North Sea, and the South China Sea. The anomaly exists only in books, but disappearances did happen. The most famous, 5 Avenger bombers, Flight 19, December 5, 1945. They took off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine training mission, lost their bearings, ran out of fuel, and fell into the sea. The last radio transmission: we don't know where West is. The ocean doesn't look as it should. A few hours later, a search seaplane also disappeared. What really happened? The pilots were trainees. The lead plane's compass failed. The weather turned suddenly. Clouds dropped almost to the water. In this area, it's easy to lose the horizon, especially when the sun is hidden. They simply flew into open ocean instead of returning home. Other known cases: tanker Cyclops in 1918, DC-3 in 1948. Yacht carships in the 1970 secondes almost always. Storm, instrument failure, human error. Now, the features of the place itself. The Gulf Stream rushes here at up to 8 kilometers per hour and abruptly changes direction, creating sudden killer waves up to 30 meters high. From the Bahamas and Florida shelf, methane bubbles sometimes burst out. Water density drops dramatically, and a ship can sink in seconds without time to send a distress signal. Magnetic variation is small, but compasses sometimes spin, and in clouds pilots lose up from down. Altogether, one of the busiest marine and air corridors in the world, plus treacherous weather and tricky terrain. It used to be dangerous. Today, hundreds of flights and dozens of cruise ships pass through it daily. And nothing happens. We have GPS, satellites, accurate forecasts, and radars that didn't exist in 1945. The Bermuda Triangle is neither cursed nor magical. It's simply a part of the ocean that was once very difficult to navigate. And the ocean, as we've seen, can be beautiful, terrifying, and utterly indifferent, even without any mysticism. It hides underwater rivers, glowing milk, immortal jellyfish, intelligent octopuses, entire continents, and even life beneath the ice of other planets. And all of this is real. Thank you for diving this deep with me.